There you go. Can you hear us?
Okay.
There we go.
What was it, 2:02? All right, so from the last meeting, we had a couple more requests put in. And we have a few people here to talk about them. I'd like to start, I think just go around the table and around the room, introduce ourselves. I'm Tom White, First Selectman Morris.
Rick Nicoletti, treasurer.
I'm Kyle Rosenbeck, the road foreman for the highway department.
Ben Poletsky, EDC, but I think I'm representing fire.
Sure. Yeah, you remember, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Tracy Martin, Board of Finance Chair.
Ron Schaefer, EDC.
Ed Dorset, President of Morris Historical Society.
Carrie Kepler, Secretary of the Morris Historical Society.
Greg Nelson, Executive Director of Northwest Transit.
I'm Ben Solnit. I don't know if I was made a member of this committee or not. What it was talked about, but I'm either a guest or a member of the committee. You tell me.
I think you're on it.
You're on the committee
I'm on the committee now.
from last
Then
time.
we put you in housing authority.
Okay.
Maureen Fitzpatrick from the library board.
Okay. Now we have Craig Nelson here at Northwest Transit District to speak to kind of what happened with the transit district over the last probably 2 years with the pandemic and how it affected them. And we are one of 9 towns.
The district is made up of 17 municipalities across the northwest corner of the state. We were set up in 1983 by a state statute. And every town, every municipality has a board member, with the exception of Torrington, has 2 because of their population. Town of Morris has access to what we call Dial-A-Ride. It's a door-to-door service. Picks up elderly disabled here and will carry them shopping or to doctor's appointments. And we also have the RITS program, which carries a person to a medical facility or doctor outside of the 17 towns. So if somebody has to go to Yale or medical, that's what that program's for. We have 1 vehicle right now for that. It comes through COG. I'm working with COG to get another one with operating funds for it because it's booked out right now over a month. And it's heavily used. And we know there's a lot of people that need to use. The district itself lost fiscal 2019 to now during fiscal 2022, 489% of our local funds because of downturn in the. Right.
Sorry, did you say 489%?
489%.
In terms of operating numbers, do you have a little?
The dollars I don't have off the top of my head.
How can you lose more than 100% of your funds? I'm sorry.
It's a local fund. It's not all of our funds. The majority of our funds are federal but they are channeled through the state.
Okay.
But then we have to have matching funds from local sources, which is either donations on rides. There's somewhere in your town budget, you'll see a line that has a transit item. I think it's under Uni Grant. I don't know how you have it listed, Tom, in yours.
I think it might be NW Transit or something, a line item.
Yeah. Which if you look, it's a very low number. And I can tell you right now, it also covers your senior trips. Town of Warren and Morris together do more senior trips than all of the other towns in the district combined. And this, whether they're going down to Thimble Islands or shopping or whatever they're doing, I can tell you right now, the 2 towns together, because they work together on them, use that senior trip exclusively a lot. So we're looking basically at the ARPA funds. If you read back in the thing, you'll see that travel and transit are in the act itself, are spelled out in the act. I think I sent Tom, did I give you that letter with the
Yes.
sections that called out the parts in the act?
Yep.
And so what we're doing is we are asking all of the municipalities to donate at least $10,000 to the district to help offset what we've lost. I can tell you right now, Barkhamsted has already sent in their 10,000. I was just told 2 days ago, Torrington has given us 50,000. And yes,
No, when you're done. with it.
and it looks like Warren's going to throw in 10,000 right now. I happen to be on their board over there, so. But go ahead, would you?
So a couple of things. I saw this on here. I'm generally pretty supportive of interlocal type projects like this because it gives us more buying power and helps a wider area. I'm curious because we're trying to gauge impact overall.
Mhm.
We have our budget's different than Torrington's, which
Oh,
is
everybody town, all
Yeah.
the towns are different. Yeah.
So what I'm trying to understand is if there's a pro forma for Northwest Transit District, it'd be cool just to look at it to kind of gauge like how this works. The other is in terms of cost sharing, if we're giving 10 and Torrington's giving 50, is that a reasonable ratio between towns? I just want to make sure that our ratio is reflective of our utilization.
I honestly, Torrington's given a lot more, but in a lot.
I'm sure they are, yeah. But they also got $10 million.
We're probably going to get this year from Torrington over 200,000 with everything from them because and down the road, we're getting more because we're looking at doing some programs where we are going to be taking care of some of their buses and so forth, which they would be paying us to take care of.
With this number, do we fix all your problems?
No.
Okay. What's that? Is there a number, like if you had to make everything right again?
If I had to make everything right, I would probably. I would probably need at least 20 from every town minimum. But that would be a one-shot deal. But honestly, for everybody's here, I took over middle of March. So, you know, the district was, let's say, failing at that point. Things were being shut down. I got in because the senior trips were closed. They were shut off. And our park and rec director, who works with your senior director over here, bugged me. And I got on the board and then one of the board members started bugging me. And so you got to take over as director and the board hadn't been doing anything. So I got thrown in a position to really clean the thing up. They were behind 6 months in all of their bills. Maintenance at that time was owed over 150,000. Things like that. I've got them up to just under 100,000 now. I'm getting bills caught up. They weren't sending out invoices. The municipal money I talked about before, the same dollar amount from every town, for as far as we know, goes back at least 14 years and has never been changed. And I got that from Don Stein, who's been the first selectman up in Barkhamsted for 14 years. And he's telling me that number has been the exact same number all those years. So we're in a position we're playing catch up is what we're doing with everything.
One of the other criteria we look at are other funding sources exist. Like we're trying to understand if we're going to be, if ARPA is the primary contributor or if we have other resources to help.
Right now, there's not a lot of other resources that we can go after because we're considered a quasi government. So I can't go after a lot of other grants that are available, say, to nonprofits. I know that just before I came on, there was a grant that was never filed. Not for a lot, but it was for the Western Connecticut Agency on the Aging. So we're not getting that money this year. But this coming year, we're applying for it. Most of it, like I said, a lot, we either have to get it from the towns or we have to start charging other agencies and stuff to get the funds to make up shares against the federal funds. Because the federal just doesn't give us everything. It would be nice, but then again, it goes through the state and the state also has to take their cut to help. Yes.
You mentioned fiscal year. What is your fiscal year?
We're July to June.
And fiscal year,
We're in
the last
22 right
pre-pandemic,
now.
yeah, you're in 22. The last pre-pandemic year would have been fiscal year 18?
Well, we looked at 19 because it came in 19.
Okay, so what were your revenues roughly in 19
I don't have all those numbers. off the top of
versus
my head,
20
to tell you
versus
the truth.
21?
There's a girl that worked for the district for many years.
Uh-huh.
And I asked her for some stuff and she wrote up, honestly, she lives down in the Carolinas, has been doing it online for me. So I can get some of this stuff straightened out without spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
And she gave me a chart breakdown with the percentages, and the dial ride, which affects most of the towns, was 489% loss over that time period.
See, I just don't
candy-
understand
the
that.
candy-
I was not a math major. Maybe Ed can help me because he was a math
yeah,
teacher,
the
but you
candy-
can't have less than
The
zero.
candy striper.
Can you?
it Lost
That's,
100.
you can do the other way. It's just,
Yeah, the candy striper was 105% loss, but that doesn't affect you. That only affects Litchfield,
Okay.
Torrington and Winston, because that's our fixed bus route.
I guess the long short was for us to rank everything and put it against other proposals. Every town has crazy long lists. If there's just a worksheet that we can just kind of talk amongst the board, it's gonna be helpful for us to understand. It's clear that the ask is 10K. It's clear that the transit organization is clearly struggling. It's also clear that it does a lot of good in the community. I don't think any of those are
Mhm.
being questioned or challenged at all, but just for my understanding, I think I have the same expectation for all these to some degree that
Yep.
we just want to get a little bit more numbers behind it because we have to then justify it out and explain it out. And if we don't fully
I
understand.
understand. I'm sitting in your.
Okay, yeah, I know.
In my town.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you what I have right now.
That was smart to come across the board.
Started asking.
Okay, it's on our radar, I'd say, and we're gonna discuss it, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's on the list. Is there a time frame like that you need money, or is it can?
I need.
Are you interested? Is it part of
Honestly,
getting a new
this
bus?
is just gonna pull us out and kind of break us even.
Yeah.
But I've also asked for an increase in the budget from the state.
Another bus or something? or-
Well, no, I need a few more buses,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's beside the point.
Yeah.
The capital funds for the buses is not a problem. State has problem dishing out operating funds. So my expenses for drivers, and they worked through the COVID, because so they're frontline people right there. And they, even the feds say they're frontline people because of it. They're out there every day of the week dealing with whoever gets on that bus.
Sure.
And they didn't get a raise. We just had a board meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday. And I got a raise for them. We jumped to 5% because we're paying them 16 starting, and they can go up the road to Walmart and start at 17. And if somebody's got a CDL with passenger endorsements, because we were paying 17 an hour, and that's underpaid. So that's where we're looking and to get things straightened out and to get drivers, because we're short drivers like every school bus company and transit bus company across the state, well, across the country, really. But in fact, if you know part-time people want to drive, we're open to them. License and a passenger endorsement. You don't need a CDL.
If you had a CDL, you need the passenger endorsement on it.
If you have a CDL, there's a passenger endorsement. Well, you can either get an S, which is a school bus, or an F, which is a passenger.
let's not get into the weeds. We have so many things to cover, like, I think.
You had another
Redraw.
question, but
Yeah, actually, I was,
Hampstead gave you the money. What are they expecting back from you?
I'm sorry.
What's Park Hampstead expecting back
Arcam said it's not expecting a lot back because they don't use the facilities a lot, the bus a lot.
Oh, no, I'm just saying as far as are they asking you what you did with the money? Or do you have to?
They already know because they basically, most of the money I'm getting from the towns is going in to pay personnel. And that's where I've got to go with it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Craig.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, have a good day. I'll see you later.
Okay. Next on the list, we have Ed Dorsett from the Morris Historical Society. He's got a little presentation along with Terry Kepler.
I hope you don't mind if I don't stand up. My knee hurts. I'm not very good at standing for a long time. Then I taught high school mathematics for a career. I taught arithmetic to calculus. And people would ask me, what's the hardest topic I ever taught? The answer was always the same, percents. And I'm not kidding when I say that, not kidding. We passed in a few days ago the proposal that we have from the Historical Society. With, I think, some very interesting information in that.
They don't have the copies of it.
No.
I got a couple. That's all I have. Oops, there's one more. Let me go over it kind of quickly then and highlight it. Start by saying that the Historical Society, for a period of time, was not an active group at all. I'm not sure why that happened. I don't quite know when it happened, but it happened. And Carrie and Jamie worked to get us going again. And we had some meetings. We had some work done on the school. They worked to get the museum open on weekends for people to visit. And then COVID hit. And like everything, COVID kind of put a halt, slowed down everything. And now we're getting active again. I was just elected as president. Carrie was reelected as secretary. We've had several meetings with a lot of people. I think a lot of excitement as we move forward. Now, one of the things that happened during this inactivity was the buildings kind of went into a state of, I'll say, disrepair. If you've noticed, we've been working on the schoolhouse. The schoolhouse, if you look, is tarped right now, the roof. We will be having a new roof put on that next spring, hopefully this spring. If you look carefully, the clapboards on the school are brand new. They're replaced. And that was an interesting experience because as with old buildings, you don't know what you're coming into. We had presumed we were replacing clapboards. By the time John Burkett got done, he had replaced some sills and some corner posts, which is a little bit complicated. It changed the work process significantly. Next spring, we plan to paint that ourselves. We can reach that. It's not that tall. And with the new roof on there, that school's going to look nice. Now, what's kind of interesting, and there's a note in here, is that school, the best of our knowledge, will be 250 years old this summer. 250 years old, the building. And I included a little bit of history in there. There were 6 school districts in Morris. There were 6 schoolhouses. That's the one that's left. It looks like a schoolhouse. There are 2 or 3 others that look like homes. They were schoolhouses. That was down near the dam. When they started putting a dam in the early 1900s, they moved that west. And then it became a part of a cider mill at Kirchberger's. And then they donated the building to the Historical Society. And we had it moved up there. Harold Letsky did that in the early 1980s. And there's the building, beautiful building. And one of our plans this summer is to have a big celebration, I guess I would say, of the 250 years for the schoolhouse and of the restarting of the Historical Society. We hope we can have a membership drive. We hope we do some fundraising. We hope to involve the entire town. I've been talking with the fire department. They're working on Old Engine 2, which would have spent some of its early career in the old town hall there when it was the firehouse. And hopefully that will be restored and available to be there. And you notice the old grader that's there. There's been some interest in having that grader redone, and that grader was the town's grader in the early 1900s, 1920s. We're an interesting organization, and right in the 3rd paragraph there explains it. The town decided to transfer for the sum of $1 the land in the building on Route 61, known as the Old Town Hall, to the Morris Historical Society. Now, what's interesting is if for some reason the Historical Society was to disband, and let me assure you, that there are no plans to do that, not at all. But if it were to happen, then the property reverts back to the town of Morris. So we're in a kind of a unique position. We've been kind of, I would suggest, designated by the town of Morris to maintain that building and maintain it as a museum of Morris history. And we certainly are doing that. I don't know if how many of you had the opportunity to be in there. On that first floor, it's a museum. There's all kinds of stuff in there. A very interesting old buggy, a peddler's wagon that used to be a part of Slavy's, and Slavy used to have a store over in Lakeside, and stuff about ice harvesting, stuff about farming. I mean, it's just amazing. In addition to that, the written materials we have are just beyond belief. And we've been doing some work on that, sorting them, taking them over underneath the firehouse, which is a much better place to store them. And just amazing what is done. And Lee Cook did an awful lot of that. And then you go back prior to that, Phip Waugh, Bill Nelson, Mr. France, very fortunate, some people that worked very, very hard. And we're trying to continue with that. Now, we need work done on the big building. We're doing the work on the schoolhouse. We possibly have other source for funds, but if need be, we have the funds. We're going to do that. The schoolhouse will be done. But it's a big building that needs some work on it. And you can see as you go by, I mean, the paint, the ceilings. Look inside right now, it's a problem with the ceilings. So in making our request, I've got some categories that we've put in there, and one of them is carpentry. Now we did get some estimates on this. Now they're estimates. I mean, we put in there $54,550. That's a lot of money. Is that going to be enough? I don't know. Because who knows when we start digging in that cupola, what's going to be underneath the cupola? Who knows what happens when we start looking at those clapboards, what's going to be underneath there? But we know that work needs to be done, and that's the estimate that we have. We also need, and I'm sure you can agree with this one pretty easily, that we need heating and ventilation, air conditioning there. We don't have that right now. You go in there right now, that temperature inside is about the same as the temperature outside. I'm not sure how bad it is in the wintertime, but it's not good in the summertime when you've got the heat and humidity. And it's a museum. And so we would like to have that with ventilation. We'd like to have air conditioning. We'd like to have heat in there, and we have a estimate for that. And that's probably a pretty good estimate there. Now, if we're going to do that, then we need some electrical work done. And so there's a number in there for electrical work. The next thing we're going to need done, and that's certainly you can see, is painting. Painting is a little bit complicated. I've been talking with some of the painters here in town. They're suggested on the schoolhouse, because the clapboards are new, is that you can get a lead-based primer. It's pretty expensive, but you can get it. Put a coat of that on, and then a couple of coats of real good paint on top of that. So if we're going to be painting, we think that we ought to do it correctly. And so we're asking here $20,000 for the painting. Now, again, that's probably pretty good, but I'm not quite sure how much caulking, not quite sure what might be involved with the cupola way up high. That's not something that we as volunteers can paint ourselves. Too tall on the ends, too tall on the sides for that matter. And we've got quite a few new members coming on, but we're not the youngest members in the town. And so the total amount we have there is $99,550. It's a lot of money. I know it's a lot of money. We had actually more. We cut a few things out. Windows, an interesting one. Many of those windows over there have the original glass in them. They're beautiful. You know, that swirly glass there. They're in kind of rough shape. We're not quite sure what to do with them. So our thinking is that it may be at some point in time, there's a fundraiser where we ask people, businesses, what have you, to fund a window and pay for the cost to repair that particular window, but repair it correctly. So we keep the old glass in there. And we do it the best way. We are looking at other grants, and probably we'll be able to get some other grants. Not sure how much, not sure when, but that is being looked into. We've got a person working on that right now. And Ben, you sent us some information about grant stuff, and I shared that with that person. We have lost our 501c3, and through that process of inactivity, the 501c3, what's the right word? Expired. It's gone. Now we are applying for a new one. We have a fellow that's working on that right now for us. I'm sure we will get the 501c3. I'm sure of that. Do I have any idea when or how quickly? Not at all, not at all. But that is being worked on and in fact will occur. One of the things that this grant money is looking at, of course, is tourism. And I think we're well positioned for tourism right there. Because one of our goals, well, the first goal is to get those buildings in good shape. That's the first goal. But then after that, we're going to make sure we get that museum open as much as we can on a regular basis. So people will know it's open and come into the center of Morris and take a look at that museum. And again, there's a lot of real neat stuff in there. And in order for that to happen, we're going to have to expand our membership. And we're assured that will happen. We're going to increase members. We're going to get more members and we will do our own fundraising to help with the monies that we need. Now, COVID did impact us. But COVID impacted everything. So that's, I guess that certainly is no surprise. Now, I guess we're a nonprofit. I'm not sure that we're a private organization. We're kind of a semi-private organization because again, we've been chosen by the town to take care of the history, to take care of that building. Now, you know that building, that was the former town hall right there. And then when it stopped being the town hall, it became the firehouse right there. And fire trucks were parked in there and fire trucks came in and out of there. And then they built a new firehouse across the street. I think it was 1960, Tom, is that right? I think when
Right around there.
first piece was built. And then of course, an addition was put on. And then that freed up that building, no longer being used as a firehouse. Trucks in there sideways, side by side. Must have been a couple of pretty good doors in the front. They're not there now. But I know it was used as a firehouse. So here's our proposal. Questions? You want to say?
No, I think the only thing I would add that I found surprising was Ed mentioned that someone contacted him asking if they could hold a wedding inside either of the buildings. And that had never occurred to me. And I thought, what an interesting idea to be able to offer that out to people as a draw. It's a really neat idea, but that's the only thing that I have to add, but certainly for the questions I can answer.
Now, Ben, we won't be in competition with you because we're talking about a wedding with about 10 people.
Yeah.
We're not talking about people.
All right, I'll vote for this.
Go ahead.
I have a ton of questions. So
Yes, go ahead. Now, I'm having a little trouble hearing those masks, so help me out.
I'll be loud. First off, for the 501c3, I'm a little concerned about that. So once you get $100,000 and start paying invoices, the administration of that, you might be subject to tax, and that's kind of a bummer. I was just thinking creatively, there's a lot of organizations that support the town and residents. Just like the Boy Scouts, which operates under the wing of the fire department. Because of its past history, it might have been interesting to see if you could operate in a similar manner where you have your own line item managed. It's under a wing of its own nonprofit, but then you can bypass the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 audits and all this other operational overhead that you might not want to get into. So food for thought. Because I'm more concerned about your going forward operational overhead. But first off, I have a question. What does the town allocate to the Historical Society every year?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, so when you have to pay for HVAC in an uninsulated building, how is that going to, I'm concerned about, you get what you ask for, but then you get what you ask for. And you have to start paying the bills to air condition and heat a non-stabilized building.
I believe there is insulation.
There is insulation? Okay.
Aren't we paying electric bills right
Yeah,
now?
we pay the electric bill. We do
Got some
have.
insurance bills that we pay.
Okay.
we do
Is it
have money.
considered a town building?
Please.
Is it considered a town building or is it considered a building of the
Well, I
society?
think that the way I would read that motion.
Because I'm not
The building
clear.
is the Historical Society's building. For-
Yeah, but I didn't know now with the Historical Society, like where it fell. If there were, because it wasn't active for so long. If it fell into a town umbrella or something along those.
I don't think it did. Tom would know better, but I.
Because the Historical Society hasn't been active. I don't think
But
there's been.
it did pay all of its own bills.
Yeah.
All of the.
So I guess the concern is to make sure that you're
Then it
associated
wouldn't
with
be
an
a
entity
town-
that can receive this
A
cash
town
and
entity,
minimize your tax impact.
a town building.
I believe that we'll be able to do that, Ben, because right now we are paying bills as we have them. Now, what you're talking about is going to be a larger electric bill. There probably would be a propane bill, I guess, or whatever the method is. I would guess maybe propane, and we would have to pay that. And I believe that we'll be able to do that. We do have some funds. Historically, we've had some funds. They're kind of named after some people that have been very involved with us way back when. But again, I'm confident that we can do some fundraising of our own to raise our own monies. I don't know that we can knock off $100,000 real quick, but I'm confident that we can meet monthly expenses.
I have a couple other.
Incidentally, I'm sorry. Don't forget, we got real nice Christmas ornaments for sale right now. I hope you've seen them. I hope you bought one. They are beautiful.
You're not charging enough.
Please again? Well, Bethlehem's charging 10, we're charging 15, so they're beautiful. Now, is that gonna raise much money? No, but that's a start.
I think they're very nice.
That's what we're gonna keep on doing.
So one comment was, I think the buildings are very special, but I think the contents are even more so. And so if there was a fire or an event where we lost all that, I think that'd be catastrophic. I would still like to see some digitization. I saw that pulled out of here of the content, because you have a great building and then you just have a great building, but like the flow of people and what you can offer them. And, I'm more concerned, not concerned about the fix up of the building. I'm concerned, okay, you get that, then what? And so that was part of it. The other is.
Wait, can I address that for a second?
Yeah.
Now, we are addressing that. You're right. I can't pronounce this word, digitization.
Scanning.
That's scanning.
Scanning.
Say scanning.
I screwed it up.
No, you got it.
Okay, we took the scanning out because we really wanted to put our emphasis on getting that building done correctly, so it's safe, keeps the water out, so on and so forth. Now, what we are doing is moving a lot of our paper materials, books, maps, pictures from that building over to the old Legion Hall in the firehouse. And we have a lot of
That might be
file
close.
cabinets in there. We have a lot of tables in there, and we really have a wonderful spot there in a different location for a lot of the materials we have. Just the other day, working with Lee Cook, and I'm not sure if I got the right names for this, but Lee Cook has records of who donated stuff to us, and there's a term for that. I lost what it is. But anyways, we have a couple of copies of it. And now we have one in underneath the firehouse, and we also have a copy over in the old town hall. And again, that's that idea. If there was some kind of a fire, we've got it at two different locations. Now, in terms of digital, we've had some contact with the high school. Dan Kutu has done that. Working with, I'm not sure what their term would be, with the IT teachers up there, and having students and the school help us digitize stuff. Now, we've got to come into the 21st century. When they put that old schoolhouse there in 1980, they took pictures, and we have albums full of pictures, wonderful pictures. And they made pamphlets, and they wrote up all kinds of information about, we have all of that. But now we've got to figure out how to bring that into the 21st century. So we can put on a show like this. And so not only do we have the records, but in addition to that, we would have, I don't know, PowerPoint presentations, digital, on and on. And what that would allow us to do then is to allow people to search through our records in a digital format rather than the original format, which is going to protect that original.
And that's what the Litchfield Historical Society does, and it's good. There's more room for improvement, of course, but it's not bad. The other food for thought thing is, this is a CapEx project that could easily be financed for 20, 30 years. If it was $100,000 ask that was financed, that's about $5,000 a year. If this group wanted to, we could also propose a $50,000 allocation where they finance the balance, which means your carry for all these improvements are $2,500 a year, which isn't bad. So just food for thought. Like if it's something where it can't be financed, and some of these projects are things that would be a little more challenging to finance, it's a one-time spend. But I'm trying to figure out how we can help as many as possible, but also let these operational entities operate. So just, I'm not pushing any decision, but just things we should be thinking about when we talk about each one of these.
I don't know what we would,
I'll
what
get
we
you.
would put up for collateral, maybe the school.
Well, no, if this allocated 50 grand, we covered your collateral. And you have the land value that would cover that. There's ways to do it.
Okay. Yes,
How often would you plan on being open throughout the year?
well, right now, it would be the summertime. We open on the weekends in the summertime. Now, as we get better heat, then we could be open during the fall. That'd be beautiful time during the fall. And always would be open by appointment. And we had, was a Slavey family was there, Tom, right? The Slavey family. Do you know the old general store over in Lakeside? Slavey is the name. It's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he makes
Became the.
chairs or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yes. Well, that used to be a general store. I just barely remember that. One of those neat general stores. You went in, they had everything. And the Slavey family donated a peddler's wagon that one of the Mr. Slaveys would have had many years ago. And so the Slavey family was at one of our meetings that we had, one of the gentlemen, and he had some of his family there. Tom was able to open it up. So our hope would be open regularly on weekends in the summer, obviously special events. And if we could be open more in the fall, when we got heat in there, that would be always be able to be open for by appointment. So compared to what we're doing right now, a lot.
Yeah.
And special things. I mean, old engine 2 sitting out there look kind of nice. A couple antique cars sitting out there on a Sunday.
I don't know if you have it written here, but like have the school visit it time to time. The kids from the elementary school could do it.
I think they used to do
They
that.
used to
They do
regularly
that.
have a class come every year and we'd
Yeah.
like to get that going again.
Yes.
So the kids could see.
Yeah, that's in the proposal, the last paragraph.
I think it's too much. to read.
Yep.
No, it is, you're right. And as we're talking about this celebration of 250 years, we were talking about, wouldn't it be neat if we could do some kind of a video, and I don't know if I'm using the right term, these are old terms, I know, but some kind of a video of a class being taught in the old schoolhouse as it would have been taught in 1700s, 1800s, early 1900s. There are slates over there, there's a blackboard. I mean, that would be pretty easy to do. But then do a video of a class as it's being taught over here right now with a smart board. Now, a smart board sure wasn't thought of in late 1700s. And so to look at the differences, but you know what's the same? These are kids and they're teaching and they're learning. Yeah. That 250 years, that's really kind of neat when you think about it. And I know if we're in England, 250 doesn't amount to very much. My guys here in Connecticut and Morris, 250 years amounts to a lot. And we were South Farms then. We weren't even in the town of Morris.
For tourism, you could have included a line item for a 250 party. It would be justified.
We'll cover it.
Just heads up.
We'll cover it. There is, and it's not, well, it will be a party. It'll be a party, a celebration, a renewal. I mean, we'll put all the adjectives in there. It's not very much there. You know where the building is itself.
Yeah.
The schoolhouse right beside it. And I think we go almost over to where Poppy's little driveway is. And obviously on the left-hand side, there's another driveway and then there's another building out in the back. Exactly the size of that number.
But
I'm
you
not
don't
sure.
have, it ends at that building, you're saying. It's just
Please,
it's between the two driveways and the building in the back.
kind of, yes, yes, sir, yes, sir. Yep. And I've seen some of the old deed work for the schoolhouses. That came after the town hall part, or no, early 1900s. So it was. When was this town hall built, Tom? Do you know?
34.
34, okay. And so that's when that stopped being the town hall. And let's see, that had nothing to do with the Grange, right?
No, the Grange was here. The Grange Hall sat on this property
Okay,
and they gave this property to the town or sold it to the town, and the Grange moved across the street to where that foundation is.
Mhm.
That's where the Grange Hall was.
Yep.
And then, so I think we just end up giving the old town hall to the fire company at the time.
and then the Grange had this building over here.
They had life use, I guess, of the room down here,
Yes.
as part of it.
If anyone wanted to tour the building, I'm sure we could arrange if you wanted to see what it is that we're talking about. That we have that we're up against. If you're curious, I'm sure we can.
I was lucky enough to visit it when it was still open. was, I don't know, about 15 years ago or 10 years
Had
ago.
in
It looks a little
Halloween, we had it open.
Yes, yes, yes. It really, it's amazing what we have in that building. But in my opinion, it's more amazing what we have over here in the Legion Hall. The work that has been done. Lee Cook did a lot of the work. A white lady, I can't think of her. Is that right, Tom? A white.
Which one?
Like, I can't. These are old.
They'll do it.
Just to narrow it down.
With that.
Well, you're gonna guess, you'd say White or Skilton there, you'd be pretty close.
Or Stoddard White?
Probably.
The 100 years.
Yeah,
I mean, we're
the
talking.
100
way-
years stuff, yeah.
But they have information there and it's all organized. It's in 3-ring binders. It's written up. I mean, it is amazing the amount of information we have. And Lee Cook and my wife, and me a little bit, have been working really hard on trying to organize that over in that Legion Hall so that it is accessible. Here, where Ben is talking about the digital, the more we can make that digital, the more access we have to those records. There's a whole file cabinet order that goes by family. And then there's another whole file cabinet order that goes by road. So you want to look at White, you pull out, find White, here it is. Whole bunch of stuff about White.
Very
And then-
easy to get distracted.
Oh, yes, yes.
And there's, especially after you get the 501c3, there's historic preservation grants that are available through
Yeah.
the state library. And that could go a long ways to getting us, at least in a different format, that can be there for many years. So.
And I think there's real good advice there too, real good at help. Now Lee Cook is just a fountain of information. I mean, man, this is way over my head for her, but she has so much information. And we are being so careful with what we have. I mean, if you go in there right now, there's some big tables. There's a lot of stuff on those tables, maps and stuff. And we got sheets over them to make sure that the sun doesn't degrade it any and doesn't make it look worse. We're being really careful with the materials.
Has your application to reinstate the 501c3 been submitted yet to the IRS?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Okay.
Do
Do you have a time frame for that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Attorney Mark Johnson is the one that's working on it. He has found that it expired. He has also found that,
No, I just want to know if it had been submitted yet.
yeah, well, he's found that COVID has supposedly slowed everything down
Is it,
that everybody uses.
It's about, it's 9 months to a year on a good,
that's why the
9 months to a year is what you're probably looking at on a good day.
But that's after it's submitted. It's not even submitted yet.
But that's why the sub-organization of the fire company might be the path of least resistance, the less financial overhead you guys are gonna have to spend, and it can happen quickly.
Or you could use the reading room too.
Or
It's already a supporting organization of the town of Morris.
we don't have a lot of organizations and we don't have a lot of budget, and the more we can consolidate, if there's opportunities to do so.
Yes.
But I believe Mark did feel that this will be easier to get our 501c3 back because we already had one and it had lapsed just from lack of filing. And he did feel that it would be quicker than applying for an all new one.
Okay.
So,
Because in effect, we're reapplying, whereas when we did the fire department there, Ben, that time, that was a brand new one, brand new organization. So he seems to think it is. a little bit-
Yeah, you're just renewing. You're.
We are
renewing lots.
incorporated, and then we did not lose our incorporation. We are incorporated.
There you
right
go.
now, so that's something.
anything else for the Historical Society? We're gonna kind of move along. We're gonna be losing.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Coming.
That's good. I guess next on the list would be the Highway Department. I'll let Kyle speak to it. We did have a meeting. We have to have one conversation because it gets tough with the microphones. We did have a equipment committee meeting yesterday, and we looked at the proposed excavator that the Highway Department's putting forth. The equipment committee felt that it was a very worthy purchase and recommended that we move forward with it. And so we're here today, and Kyle, you can take it forward.
Yeah, I mean, the excavator is going to be huge for us. Not only is it going to be safer for us to do the road work that we need to do, but it also can be used for various improvements that fall under the guidelines of this plan. There's things that could save the town money that we wouldn't have to contract out, that we could do ourselves. You know, the amount of things we can do with this machine would, I mean, it would increase the value of what we can do by, I can't even say, it's gonna be-
407%.
yeah.
Would negate.
You know, it's something that we've rented in the past. You know, it's inconvenient to have to rent a machine.
What do you guys
You know.
spend on rental for something?
It varies, you know, over the last few years, we've hired a contractor with an excavator.
So you get a machine and a guy.
You get a machine and a guy, but it's also a lot more money, you know, than renting. But renting is if they have it in stock. If nobody else has it, then you gotta travel to get it. And then, you know, you're limited on what you can do, what attachments you can put on it.
I want to throw out the same idea though, like, I don't know what financing incentives are for some of the bigger equipment, but perhaps like the group here could take off the down payment or the initial cost of that. And if there's,
Yeah, since it's through Sourcewell, they knock off over 20,000 off the MSRP.
Yeah.
And when you go through Sourcewell or state bid, we'll have to double check. I don't think you can finance if you go through them.
oh, okay.
Wouldn't the town have to finance? Being that they're a town. Wouldn't that have to go
So
through?
it'd be financed.
Town would have to-
Decide, but what he's saying is you lose the incentive if you go with finance.
They're making an 80K ask for it to be bought outright. And my question is, if we don't go down that path, if you need that machine, you should get that machine. And if we have two options, one is buy it outright now, and then you just have maintenance
Right.
costs, or we offset the initial, the down payment, and then it's a finance, and then it's, you know, a few $1,000 line item on your. operating.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
not,
but with them, they're a town, they're a government agency. So.
right, I'm
to be
not sure how the
financed,
financing works going.
They couldn't finance it without all the approvals and stuff
Yeah.
going through the boards.
Right.
And the selectmen. So I mean, they're different as
But if
a
they had-
government agency.
You would probably know the answer. If it was approved, if it was approved through the town, then it is possible to do it that way?
You can approve it, I believe, with capital, and you would have to get capital finance projects, right, guys? You have to get approved on capital.
You don't get the same discount you would by buying it outright if you did
You just
versus
lost 20
financing.
grand or something.
Well, you'd
Over
also have to
20 grand.
convince
I have the
the
quotes here.
townspeople to finance something, which,
Right, and so I've been talking to the dealer, and after the new year, the cost of the machine is going up by $5,000.
that's my question. Because of what's going on with inflation, supply and demand.
Yeah, they had said that if we secured a PO before the new year, they would honor the price.
What if you
And what's the
didn't do
price?
it for,
I have the quote. It's, the price was, it was 90,000 for the machine and the attachments.
what if you held off till this silliness is over? What was the price going in now? Like,
Silliness over is the question.
I don't think it's ever gonna go back down to where it was. I think the price
what
is
is it
on,
now, like, what is it today? If you went out and bought it,
He's saying you can get it for 80K right now.
No, right now it would be 90,208 as far as the quote goes,
Right.
but we're also looking at a guard for the cab windows.
Mhm.
And also perhaps, did you check on the other?
yeah, there's an extended warranty. He's supposed to get back to me with pricing on that, but,
We're looking probably about 100,000 tops.
100,000, so that's today.
it wouldn't increase over 100,000.
What happens if January 1st comes and you don't do anything? What does it go to?
It's gonna go up by 5,000.
Go up by 5,000?
Mhm.
Deal breaker.
It's, yeah, and then after you get the PO secured, they have to order the machine, and since everything is so backed up, they're looking at a 4 to 5 month turnaround before you can even see
That's
it.
what I'm saying. If you didn't even start the process and you saw what happened in 4 or 5 months,
Right.
because right now everything is ridiculous.
Yeah,
And yeah,
and we're trying to secure the machine before we get into the summer months to try to keep some more work in-house.
Do really good for
mm,
But some of the attachments we've got on our quote is a flail mower. And a flail mower, I think, is going to be very beneficial because there's a lot of outlets, a lot of drainage outlets that we can't get to just based on them being so overgrown. And since it's been so wet and everything's, you know, it's hard to access it. So if you have the mower on the machine, you can get off and kind of maintain everything a lot easier.
Was it 10,000 pounds?
It's 15,000 pound machine. We already have the trailer to move it ourselves. We already have the skills in our manpower that we're able to do it, to run the machine ourselves. So.
Is this 100,000 after the 20,000?
Sourcewell, you can see in our quote,
We don't have,
Sourcewell discount is 21,314.
What is Sourcewell?
Sourcewell is, it's like a national purchasing agency that the towns, municipalities can go through, similar to a state bid or a national joint purchasing agency.
copies of that.
I did. I think I gave them out at the equipment committee yesterday.
Thank you.
But
So the 90, so this one is for 90,200 and that's after the Sourcewell discount.
yes,
Then how did you get from the 90,000 to the 100,000? I missed that.
that's, well, we talked about at the meeting yesterday, if we can increase the warranty and possibly get some more safety features like cab guards or, you know,
Need that for-
some sort of glass protection for the mowing.
Gotcha.
The town of Litchfield has the exact same machine. They have various attachments that would work on this. They have a hammer that could be used for breaking apart concrete or asphalt. That we can kind of coordinate between the two towns to work together on. Town of Bethlehem has a similar machine. Theirs is a little older. You know, Thomaston has one. Basically, every other highway department around the state has an excavator. It's gonna increase productivity and it's gonna be a lot safer for us.
I don't think that you have to sell us on the value. I think everyone at the table would love to have one of these. And how many more problems?
Right.
Yeah. And you do this every day, so it's important.
Mhm.
I don't question that at all. It's just.
We were also tying this into protecting drinking water, specifically the Waterbury reservoirs. You know, you can use it for drainage work to improve the drainage on those Isaiah Smith Lane. There's also a project probably coming up for the town where we could save a lot of money. And that's to put in a different type of drainage over at the town beach to help with the runoff and help the water quality of Banham Lake. Also, there's another project we'd be using this on at the Morris Boat Launch, again, to help protect the water quality of Banham Lake and improve the water quality, actually. So there's a lot of opportunity here, I think. And I'm really kind of surprised that we never had one.
I think the talking point that we just, maybe this is homework, but like, maybe just say, this spend would offset X dollars a year in rental.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I know it will. It's just like, if you can throw out like a forecasted number, I think that helps us. Again, if we get asked,
Right.
like, hey, we spent this much and now this is what we're saving every year or something like that.
Yeah, I know last year we spent over 20,000
Yeah.
on contracting out work.
Yep.
that we
Especially for
could've-
something like this, it's just a utility.
But we're going to bring this proposal to the Board of Finance meeting tonight to have them review it. And then we'll probably discuss it at the Board of Selectmen's meeting next Tuesday and see what direction we want to go with it.
Because we talked, I think, at the last meeting about we don't need to, if there's something that's really attractive and there's a reason to do it sooner rather than later, which is this, $5,000 price hike.
Yeah, why
We don't
pay the?
necessarily have to
Have to.
have everything in a row. We could approve things on a piecemeal basis. So Tom, is the idea that the town move forward with this one through the Board of Finance and the selectmen?
Yeah, well, right now, the Board of Selectmen have the authority to spend the funds as long as it doesn't cost the town any town funds. With every project here, I'm not comfortable with that. I think the townspeople should have more of a voice in that, But this one, given the time frame and the value of what we're purchasing and also, 5,000 is 5,000. I mean, that's a lot of money when we start talking the budget this year. We go through line items and, sometimes we're talking $200. So I think 5,000 is a good save.
Right.
Yeah, especially when we're gonna get it anyway. Might as well get it now is what I.
So sorry to be sort of kind of procedural, but that's kind of what I am. Would you find it helpful for this committee to, pass some resolution or motion saying that we would view that favorably or?
Yes, that and Board of Finance too, I think, it'd be very helpful.
I
to
can't
have.
help you with the Board of Finance, but I would suggest, I propose, I move that this committee state that it favors the purchase of the mini excavator as outlined by Mr. Rosenback of the Highway Committee, subject to the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen.
Second that.
Yeah, it's like.
Can we have a
All those in
discussion on
favor?
that?
Any, okay,
Yeah,
any further discussion?
Yeah, please. The only thing about this is it's clearly an easy capital project. And with the price of it, a lot of, I would say nothing else on here is a capital, with the exception of the fire truck. There's a lot of stuff that the town would be hard pressed to finance. So I understand the time restraint, but these guys work with governments. And I just don't know if, we're meeting with the auditor tonight. You've seen, I haven't seen the audit. You've seen it, Rick?
Yeah.
You know where we're at? You know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, we could buy this tomorrow.
Okay. So where I'm going with this is before we rush and do something that's a clean capital project that we probably could do fairly quickly. And I don't know, I haven't had the meeting, I haven't seen the audit, I don't know the numbers, and I'm not speaking for the entire board. If we take 100,000 out of these funds, there's other people that we can't help. So that's the only, my only hesitation on it, doing it this way.
Yeah, I think if we look at the big board here, we should have probably, right now, we're based on everyone's asked, we're at $202,000 over.
Mhm.
So in that is two big capital projects, the fire truck and the mini excavator.
And you gotta remember,
I'm just
I'm just saying though, you gotta remember too, with the fire engine, that doesn't get you there either.
no,
No,
exactly.
but that's a line item.
There's also a lot more that you'd have to add, not only to that 200,000 and the 250 we already have in CNR, just to get that engine. So you're talking a good chunk of money above 450,000.
You probably need another 250.
So here's a way, I believe, of utilizing this money the way it's supposed to be utilized. It's going to have benefits to many different projects that fall under ARPA. And it's a way of stretching our tax dollars a lot further.
My only point is it will hurt other people on the list. And as far as I think with the,
That's true of anything
That's our job to hurt.
that's our job, right?
yeah, I just don't agree. I think
Wish
some
you
of these
could give up.
smaller nonprofits,
Yeah, I call.
Have a one-shot deal.
I'd like to vote on it.
okay.
All those in favor?
I
Opposed? Tracy? Anyone abstain?
So it's,
Yeah, we look forward to seeing what the finance, comes.
Board of Finance, the Board of
the
Selectmen.
Board
do.
of Finance,
We're just.
we're out of it now.
No, you're not. You
No.
didn't. No, my motion was that this committee
It says favorable, doesn't mean.
favorably
approve or
upon this
anything.
request, subject to what the
Right.
Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen decide to do.
Well, no,
So this could,
I thought your committee was to put it to the selectmen.
No, we weren't,
No.
we were not, we were just saying we like this idea.
I was planning on going to the Board of Finance.
Vote for a like an idea? I'm sorry, my bad. I thought it was to send it to selectmen for approval with the
No,
ARPA
no,
funds
it was-
because they need to do it by
it
the,
does go to the Board of Selectmen because it is federal.
I thought that's what we were doing.
okay.
That's why we were still going to the Board of Finance to say, hey, what do you think of this?
Right.
On the board stands confused. Okay.
I'll let you guys fight that out.
Who's on?
Who goes to who about what?
Committee?
Sign
Um,
off on it.
Myself,
That's what I'm,
Kyle,
did we?
George
Yes.
Deacon,
Subject to whatever
Rob Ebner,
Hanson.
Yeah,
a
well,
couple members
I
kind
haven't
of
touched it.
fallen off due to lack of participation. So we're actually looking at adding another person, a local contractor.
Thanks.
Going back to the fire truck, we have till 2024 to spend this, right?
26.
Okay, because we talked about that, and to keep it in here, I remember saying, we have a line item open, we are planning to fund it. And we would be able to fund it without having to overfund it and use the 200,000, correct?
I think in your budget, it's 4 more years after this year. So you're talking not replacing that truck till 2028. And then, once you get the money, then they have to build it. So you're probably looking at 2029 or 30 before you guys get a new truck, correct?
You'll start
You
looking.
can't.
No, that's not right. It's like 20.
No, so this year we're at 250,
Imagine that.
and I think we want to get to 750.
So you have two, but we do 200,000 a year.
No, 125.
We did 125. Oh, heck, we'll never get
Yes,
this.
we're not, that's so if you, so I believe the
We have that.
final year you guys are in the budget would be 2027, which then when you put the order in, you're lucky if you get it before 2029. Fancy
So
machine.
putting that
Oh,
200,000
electric.
of these funds into it would force the hand of the Board of Finance to have to raise capital to do this within the time frame.
Correct. I mean, I would, yeah, I mean, obviously.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
there's not gonna, they're not, fire trucks aren't gonna get cheaper.
Yeah.
We're saying, no,
It's not gonna get happier to fund them and
correct. No, that's what
higher
I'm saying.
taxes any quicker. So they're gonna get cheaper.
I totally agree.
So. So I guess the caveat on that is if it was decided to do the 200,000, then we'd have to come up with the balance
We
by the deadline.
I mean, I think the best, I mean, a move we can do is you move the 200,000, we approve 200,000 of ARPA funds to go towards 30% of the fire truck, and then you raise this next year's budget and the following year's budget to 150, and you get all your money and it's done. So
So I do have to raise capital to do it.
Well,
I do have to
only by
raise capital.
25,000.
you can also look at it this way. We can take a
Killing me.
portion of these funds, the 667,000, and say we're going to put that to non-government expenditures, like the Historical Society, Food Kitchen or whatever. Take the rest, claim it as lost revenue for the town. So when you claim it as lost revenue for the town, it comes into the general fund or into our fund balance. And we've already satisfied what the treasury wants to do with that money. So at that point, you can spend it on normal budget items, fire trucks, dump trucks, whatever. So it kind of frees up the town from what the treasury is asking for with these monies. So that way you're not under the gun as bad because you already have the money in the town coffers without the strings attached by the treasury for the deadline. So that way you don't have to jump and, fund the rest as quickly.
We don't know if maybe in a year and a half from now, there might be an insane grant that like gets us a much further.
True.
We think we have there's just moving parts that we can't.
Well, that's why I think you guys are staying away from broadband, because we're not even talking about broadband on this. And that's like one of the main things of ARPA, because there's so many other things coming down the road to do. No, electric, I think you were talking about the electric chargers and stuff like that, all these other
Grants
stuff
that you can
coming
get.
out.
There's not though, unfortunately, for
No.
the broadband stuff, unless you're optimal.
Unless you
Yeah.
live in the
Starlink.
Midwest.
City or are underserviced or are giant.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at the big board here, you look at what people ask for, I think you guys are looking at seeing if you could help people that normally wouldn't be helped in a normal budget.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at like lost revenue, people that, the transit came in, I'm not sure.
Phantom Lake
I
Protective,
think of Burlington, it's not Burlington, correct?
Phantom Lake Protective.
Right. The church just asked us for some money, and then Chore.
What is Chore?
Sure.
What is that?
Shore is an organization of, I can't remember how many towns are in it.
6
We're part, is it 6?
Hmm.
Tracy's mother was the
coordinator.
coordinator for the show. They go in, they supply people to go in people's homes generally to help them, maybe with light cleaning, bring them to the grocery store, to the doctor's office. And we have, I can't remember what we pay. It actually went down quite a bit this last year, what the town puts into it. But they had a lot of lost revenue again this year, like other service organizations.
So when you look at it, what they're asking, when you add up all these people trying to make them happy who help other people, it's $52,000 and it's literally 8% of the ARPA funds we're getting. Then when you come here and you look at recreation and tourism, it goes up a lot with the Historical Society at 100,000, but it's 27% of the $676,000 being asked for. So that's a decent chunk. And then I think somebody was 12%. Health and safety, Greenswoods, these are, again, this kind of goes into the lost revenue bucket is 12%. These are things that normally wouldn't get money, special gifts out of a budgeted plan that you gotta look at too. What projects do we want to, I know we talked about his project moving forward. But, we got to figure out what's the next projects do we believe that we want to invest in?
I think we gotta kind of take what's here and start bringing it down.
Finding
To
it.
match the 667. Right. Trying to hit the benefit of the most people as possible with the monies. Even if we claim it as lost revenue, I think it still should be kind of spent with the idea of what the treasury put out there. Try to hit the underserved, try to hit as, much many people as possible in a positive manner. So.
Engine 5 replacement, huge. Lost revenue library, not so huge. So why not put the request for the library in the budget, the town budget, as line items? And then, some of these other things can get in there as line items, the smaller ones. And then you kind of whittle away at that.
Moving forward with throwing lost revenue from previous years into a budget. How do you do that moving forward? It just comes out as you move forward?
Yeah,
I don't think you were talking about lost revenue, were you?
No, I was thinking.
You're talking about program,
Right.
line items,
Right,
funded line items.
yeah.
Oh,
For
the idea-
example, we usually pay for the programs out of funds that we've raised,
right,
but
lost revenue.
yeah, but it's $2,000 a year. That's not a big deal
No,
compared to 200. Okay,
no, what I'm saying is you put that in the budget now.
right.
Why? Is because you lost revenue. You couldn't do your fundraising. You couldn't
Right.
do this, you couldn't do that. How do you take that back out as you move along?
You don't.
So it stays there.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
But
Ron had. a
Talking
question.
about, mine's a separate subject.
Oh,
oh, okay. You could go for both. You guys have come January, you start working on your budgets, you can say,
Right.
we want to add line, we want to add line, we want to add line, you submit
Right.
your budget. I think that's what you're saying, if you want to
I-
continue or change,
I am,
evolve, or whatever. So, it might just be might be actually two separate things. you're
Okay.
talking about.
All right. Okay.
So the broadband study, everybody decided that. We
Uh,
did it
that's
this time?
what we should probably
No,
go.
we have to discuss it. There was no one here to really talk about it. Ben is here now.
Okay.
So you want to open that spreadsheet I sent just so we can understand?
Ugh.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so long and short of this, just there's a organization called Northwest Connect. They are looking at a regional upgrade to our broadband infrastructure. The problem is simply this: the incumbents are not necessarily looking to invest in this area. So what we have is what we have. They're going to be marketing it out, improve services, but it's just marketing. So for example, if they're talking about gigabit speed, it's a gigabit speed, yes, but then divided by up to 128 homes. It's no different than what we have, but you're charging more. They're going to charge you more. You do have access to that 1 gig speed, one direction, not synchronous. There's download speed. But that assumes no one else is on the line with you. It's just the same games. So we shouldn't expect improved service. We shouldn't expect remarketed service. In terms of customer support and everything else, none of that will change. And Frontier just came out of bankruptcy. They might look at this area. Google might look at this area. AT&T won't look at this area. Verizon said they won't look at this area. We're in a weird demographic where we're not underserviced, but we have bad service. And if you look at where investment's happening, so money is coming into the state, and Hartford is probably going to reinvest it into Hartford and New Haven and Stamford and not Litchfield County. We just don't match up with any of the profiles for these grants. Same with the USDA. We don't meet the profile for these grants. These grants are intended for the town of 50 people in, Oklahoma that, are operating off of satellite dishes. We're not in that profile. And they're able to, the FCC has maps of all coverage and everything like that. Our map is a little misleading. It looks like we have really good service here because we do have access, but the access that might look really, really good is going to be $300 a month. And so we're in this stuck position where we're just, whatever Optimum wants to do, they'll do. And they're right now, the Optimum is saying that they do want to invest in this area. There's 8 towns, Morris is one of them, that is part of that demographic. There's conversations happening right now where can the 8 towns get a voice to push back? We're finding that Optimum said that engineering would have been done by the end of last year, or by the beginning of this year, and deployment would happen in first quarter 20. None of this is happening. And this is messaging that we see every year. What we're just learning is that we're getting the same rhetoric, and we shouldn't have any different expectations from their past behavior. We don't expect service to get better. There's not an operational model. They're a business that now isn't even domestic. It's owned by Altice in France. France doesn't care about Morris, Connecticut, unfortunately. And so what we're finding is that we don't have a business model that supports them to invest in our area, and they're a business. And so what is popping up all our different areas, Block Island, there's Sharon just finished their study in the area. Some of the other towns are starting to get there as well. Litchfield is very is kind of similar boat where we are thinking about this problem. What's happening are these public-private networks that are popping up, these small networks. And what they can do is offer synchronous, so upload and download gigabit speed. The town essentially finances their own network, which we pay for anyways. If you get a Comcast bill for $150 a month, if you're lucky, that's us paying for this network that they get to own and operate. So there's models out there and companies out there that can deploy a network, small network, but still network. It's just as good, same wire, that links into the main hub that connects into a junction in Boston or New York City. So we'll get that speed. But the difference is each house would have access to gigabit speeds. And a preliminary model shows it would cost a subscriber about $140 a month. So that $140 a month.
TV or?
What's that?
Just for internet?
Just for internet? Well, is there a market for that if you're not a business?
Yeah, because
$140?
cable TV is going away, whether what's going to happen is Optimum will repackage it and they'll force you to buy for $160 a month their version of which is just a internet pipe and whatever content they want to package in there because they're a content company. They want you to buy their content.
I pay $50 for T-Mobile.
Well, T-Mobile isn't what we're talking about. So,
Oh, I know, but
so
Let's
that's
define that more.
what's that?
Ben, define more of what you're talking about when you're talking about broadband. What's the
So
technology you're talking about?
fiber optic.
So you're talking fiber optic,
Yes.
specifically fiber optic,
Yeah, fiber optic to the home,
fiber optic. to
which
the
is
home.
going to be the
Okay.
standard for at least the next 40 years.
And you're asking to fund a study that would,
There's 2 steps in the process. The first step is to do an engineering study that would actually figure out exactly what it would cost and understand what Morris would look like if we went under this program. Morris actually has the least amount of road miles of every town in Litchfield County, which is good. That means we would be the cheapest install for any community in the 21 town region.
Just to back up one more step, fiber optics is an underground system, right?
No,
No.
So,
Strings on the telephone line.
so that's what.
So they're
Optimum
going
is
on the
up,
top, so they're
is
gonna
fiber
string it,
optic.
but it's not strong.
that's what we have to pay for. We have to pay for our network. If we don't pay for our network, Optimum will do it and charge you for that too. But you'll
Well,
have no
you do
control.
have, I mean,
We don't.
we actually do. I lived in a much more rural community and you have the satellite stuff coming in. That's probably gonna be,
No, it won't.
I
So.
don't think Starlink and Hughes are gonna,
Well, let me explain. Satellite is RF based. RF based propagates through air.
yep.
Physics limits how fast that can go. Weather limits how fast that can go. Optical is light based. It's not RF frequency based. Optical can transmit much faster, much more reliable, without latency, without any of the errors that you're going to see for a satellite based system. Will satellite work? Yes. Is optical a system that's way more robust and just a better system? Hands down. The problem that we're going to have is that this is a technology and we're trying to convey a technology to a community, and it's hard to do. You can't like just say, hey, here's the fiber optic line to 99.9% of the population and be like, that's meaningless to me. Why do I care? And what's going to happen, if we had to relate why this is important, TVs are going from 4K. Pretty soon they'll be at 8K. Right now for 8K television, it's all compressed. The reason why it's compressed is because copper lines can't support it. The reason it's compressed is when you go from one digital line to 128 homes, it won't be able to support it. It's not future-proof. It's a Band-Aid. And so if you start looking at where all our media is going, by the way, like our Zoom call, look how terrible that resolution is. It's good enough, and look how choppy, sorry, you're choppy when you're moving around. The reason it's choppy is because it's buffering because our uplink lines aren't fast enough to support that. Guess what? When the cities and everywhere else have fiber connection and we don't, it's going to be harder for remote workforce. It's going to be harder for telehealth. It's going to be harder for all just even talking to the grandkids. There's going to be all this stuff that Morris is going to be left in the dark.
I thought we put fiber optic in the town hall.
So CEN manages a closed fiber optic network, and we might be able to, that's why the engineering study is important. There's two pipes that come into the town hall. There's one pipe that goes into the firehouse. Right now, it goes into town hall. Does that help you? No. And so we might be able to lease that line and put together a program where we are pulling from those services. That will save us cost. We can also do things where we have a generator in the basement for the firehouse. That will save us, that'll create resiliency. So for example, here's a scenario that's a real scenario. We lost power, it was like 2 years ago, and all the generators came on, but none of the broadband came on. Because the way Optimum is set up right now, it's battery backup systems. They last about a day. The Optimum proposal right now is all battery backup systems. So if we ever had an event where like we are off the grid for a little bit, all our broadband's dead. Broadband's like as important as like for me, for my work, like I need an internet connection more than I need to travel down the highway. And so it's true. Like I can be in my house for.
I've been working remote for 20 years.
There you
and
go.
I've dealt with dial-up. I go back to dial-up, so.
I
mean,
me too, but like dial-up is
I
not
just-
going to help you today.
However, getting down to the cost, and this has been the sticking point with fiber optic, because fiber optic's been around, or it's been batted around since dial-up almost. The cost of putting it down, are you suggesting it would be a town project?
Yep.
Which the cost of,
$50,000 a road mile. There's 47 road miles in Litchfield County. Ben, I'll send you the spreadsheet and then you don't have to write that down.
do the fast math,
It's 487.
It comes to about $4 million.
bingo. So you'd have.
Which you are paying for anyways, the second you give Optimum your money. And then some, and then you don't own it.
Assume that I give up to my money, but.
We also got to look at economic benefit too for the businesses that are working out of their own small homes now. You have the actual businesses, say like I2 systems, this can benefit. What it can bring to small towns like us and not overload our infrastructure. It's something to think about. I mean, to me, it's just the benefit. I think it's the future. Maybe I've listened to a lot of Ben's speeches over the last year and a half, but, and I was still talking with, Kim Maxwell from Northwest Connect and all the rest of these people that every meeting we have, we're talking about fiber optic.
Can you just make that bigger or
That one? Or
spreadsheet?
spreadsheet?
You have to get a take rate. If there's 854.
Oh,
homes,
that's the other one.
Oh,
Oh, I thought that was Ben's spreadsheet.
No, this is the,
Oh, sorry.
It's thought out. We have-
So we need.
So
to-
Ben, if we were to somehow finance, so we finance a study, that's.
So if
kind
we
of a
know
drop
this,
in
why are
the
we financing the
subject.
study?
And then, but you need the study to prove it. And then who comes up with the $4 million? The town?
So you can,
Once you come up with the $4 million,
there's
That's
no,
it.
does the town get paid back from the subscribers who sign up? For
yeah,
this
the
thing?
subscriber at 100, so it's captured in, not in that spreadsheet.
oh, it's
but-
not that first, Travis, say, because we can make that bigger. So
Yeah.
just see.
So long and short of it, that recaptures, that pays the financing for the whole program. That pays off the network, that pays for your ISP fees.
which one did you want?
The email from Mike Solitro.
How long ago was that?
I think it might actually be in that email beginning. There you go. So Certex is a company that installs these public-private networks. They gave a quote for Morris. He said it'll be about $4 million to do the, they call it fiber to the FTTX, fiber to the pole, fiber to the street. That means there'll be fiber optic connection from every home in our town. And that means if you want to subscribe, everyone has access. And if there's a case where someone can't afford that, there are subsidies we
Oh,
can
I ran it.
investigate to get them that connection fee.
And what if
Is
they
it town
don't?
run?
What's that?
Is it town run?
It's not, it's town owned, but not operated by the town. A third party would manage the front end, the support, the maintenance. all the-
But now we're gonna put it up on the lines,
Correct.
the same lines that, like you just said about the last storm, broadband went down. That was kind of least of everybody's worries because all the power went down. So because we're in a forested area, the problem we have,
Which is being corrected
Is-
right now by Eversource after they got banged, like how many billions of dollars for not good response time. That's a different
well, I'm
issue.
just asking if the fiber optics are under this, are they the same as a power line, whether Eversource actually continues?
They're
to
not the
trim trees
highest
or not?
wire on the pole, which is a big deal.
But if the pole
But it's
goes
still-
down or if a tree goes down on it,
Yep.
you get the same things as the
So the
electricity
engineering
with
study,
fiber optic.
the engineering study also helps it become a redundant system. So you do have switches that, bring signal in from the other side. If you have a cul-de-sac, guess what? It's going to come in from one location. And if it gets hit right in the middle spot, that area is down. But yes.
So that was interesting, the Excel spreadsheet you showed me. So only 60% of the people actually have to sign up
So
for it.
there's 854 homes.
Yeah.
The game here is take rate. How many people subscribe? So if of the 154 homes, if there's interest by 60% of those homes, and that's not inclusive of the big businesses, which we could arguably ask to help subsidize a little bit more of this. That takes that's what this model captures. The other thing, the assumption that's made here is, and you might know, but of the 47 road miles here, I made the assumption that 5 of them are underground. Underground is much more expensive than aerial wiring. And so thinking like North Terrell Road, there's probably 1.5 miles of underground service there.
Yep, Sean
Okay.
Meadows underground.
Sean Meadow, that's not very far, but
No.
like, but
I think that's it, though.
but I think that's it too. So our profile, not because of anything we did, just because who we are, is really favorable to this model, more so than any other community in Litchfield County, because we have all the metrics from all the different towns. And I looked at that when I was working for Northwest Connect. Anyway, the first step is it says 35, but I think it's closer to $30,000 engineering study, which will audit all the poles. They'll audit all the roads. They'll audit even, we could ask them to include driveway lengths, because we can even amortize connection. We could actually, with this spend, get everybody wired up to a gigabit service. And for pretty affordable cost for what you get. Yes, your service is gonna be less expensive, but truthfully, it's terrible. I'm sorry, but like it's.
But is it terrible or is it good enough? And
Good enough isn't-
That's,
But good enough doesn't future-proof a community.
I agree. I agree.
however, you're banking on the future and
As a
I mean, I don't know.
technologist
It's a
who
lot of
studies this all the
money.
time, I hear what you're saying,
I know.
and I will refute what you're about to say.
And that's okay, because somebody who's been in this freaking technology bit for 40 years, we can dispute all day long. It's a huge investment. You have
Yes.
to convince, I
They
mean, a
just showed they can
huge tax
bring
hike.
400 terabits per second through a fiber line. We're okay.
Wait, is it a tax hike or? you're
That's
saying
fine.
people are
The average
paying-
person-
People are paying the loan back. We're not paying, the town's not paying the loan back.
16-bit,
No, we
32-bit.
would, we could do two ways. One is the town could pay the loan back, but we have a subscription base that pays the town.
Okay.
So somehow, or we just set up an entity that manages the funding.
Who manages the subscription?
It's called an internet service provider. So that 137 includes a company, not Comcast, but like local.
Similar to like
let's
the
call it-
Optimum.
Let's call it mom and pop Comcast. Yeah. And they will, when you have a technical issue, you call them up. When you want a new modem, you call them up.
Is that company already set up or?
Yeah,
is
it's in
that?
Western Mass and they support a lot of Western Mass towns. And they're.
So it's
now
a
moving-
it's a growing company that
Yeah,
will they take on Morris if that,
they're excited to get in Litchfield County and they're not the only option. So there are other companies. that
so
can do it.
they would bill the homeowner for that
Yep.
internet speed?
Yeah,
So we're getting, well, that's the other thing, is the town pays to lay the cables. I gotta get past that. You gotta give me more on that one, because you're
it's like
talking a
building a road.
$1
We're
million.
building a road here. A road costs, yeah. How many years for, I don't know what a road is, but my understanding is the guaranteed service life of this wire is 30 years. The functional service life of this wire is 40 years, which is good. Like, I think that kind of captures this, the length of this
So
investment.
you need people in town to hop on board to this program, because they'll have the option to go with Optimum or
The biggest is going to come in and say for $50, you can use our service, and they're going to have really pretty marketing with like happy kids on Oculus Rifts or whatever. And people are going to get excited about the marketing, but it's just marketing. And so the biggest challenge isn't other technologies or future proofing or anything. It's just these large companies with giant marketing budgets. My thought is if this were to go forward, we could do something where, hey, if you like the service, complete a refundable deposit for $140. And if we get to that 60% take rate, pre-subscribe
60% of the.
Let's make it a SPAC.
854.
Let's make it a SPAC. It'll be perfect.
There you go.
So
That might work these days. The other thing is that the Certex company realizes that getting to that tipping point is a challenge. And so now they have survey tools. So before anything actually really happens, you can survey your community. You can poll different, like get it down to the resolution of your street. Like you could, like North Carroll again, you could see how much of that community says, hey, this is interesting to me. And pretty much it's kind of like it's kind of a local movement, but like we get something for it.
So Ben, this takes in, so if I just take the $89 times 12 times the number of subscribers, that takes in $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
But you're saying the town's gonna pay the 195, or is the $500,000 gonna pay the 95? See, so you're saying the loan's $195.
You make that.
Annual, yeah.
I'm trying to.
Oh.
So you have $195,000 annual loan that goes for how many years?
The 30-year loan. This number, by the way, this 2.75, this is not like what a municipality get. That number should actually probably be closer to 1% if this is a bond.
Do you think this technology is gonna hold for a 30-year time period?
Absolutely. 5G, no. 6G, no.
5G gone here today, gone tomorrow. I mean, this technology changes
I-
in lightning speed.
I agree with you, but I'm.
No pun intended. I walked into
like I
that,
said, They just.
but the technology is.
Using fiber, they can get up to over 300 terabits per second.
Looking at this technology.
What does that, okay, now, getting back down to the town of Morris
Stop it.
and being Board of Finance having to sell
Good looking.
an extra 195 for the next 30 years. If I'm the average user, And right now I've got Optimum. It pisses me off. It goes in and out. Sometimes my shows hiccup, sometimes they don't. Sometimes I have to pull the
So you're
hotspot off of
unhappy.
Verizon.
Right.
I'm not unhappy enough to spend
So you're.
160 a month, like you're saying. I'm unhappily grousing,
I'll tell you what,
but I've also used the satellites, which yes, if it's snowy, you're like, I'm watching TV and I'll read a book. You have inconveniences, but the cost of this,
yes.
and you think that it's gonna hold over a 30-year
In fact.
time
if we
period
Lock in our
in
numbers.
technology.
If we lock in our numbers, our financing doesn't change. In fact,
They're still asking 100 and then you have
it's
to
a
pay
lot of money, but
160.
that's how the world is. That you put money into
Well,
something.
no,
you get
for a
something else.
technology that changes every
the other
6
part-
months.
Ben, have there been?
That's what I'm worried
towns
about,
that
Ben.
are Roughly similar to Morris, do you know, that have done this?
Is anybody signed on to this?
You said Western
Doing it?
Massachusetts.
Yeah, Western Mass, there's a few towns, I think, is it Ludlow? One of those towns out there. There's several towns.
Lennox,
What's that?
Ludlow's
Up in-
near Boston.
No,
No, Ludlow's Western Mass,
right next to Lennon.
near Springfield.
Okay.
I can get a list of towns. There are.
No, I don't need a list of